This is Sales Management Mastery, episode 24.
Welcome to Sales Management Mastery, where you get an insider's look on how to build, motivate, coach, and lead a high-performance, low-maintenance sales team. Here's your host, Ralph Burns.
Hello and welcome to Sales Management Mastery online at salesmanagementmastery.com. And we're here to help you and your sales managers build a team of highly motivated, elite salespeople using easy-to-use, real-world sales management techniques and tactics that'll unleash a flood of new sales for your sales organization. On this week's episode, we're going to teach you all about enthusiasm as a sales manager and what every sales manager ought to know, but nobody will tell you about sales leadership. I'd also like to remind you that if you'd like to get a jump start on creating your own team of supercharged salespeople using our proven system, you can claim your free sales manager training course of your choice, including our most popular training of all time, How to Motivate Your Sales Team to Peak Performance, at the Sales Management Mastery Academy by going to salestraininggift.com. Now, in our continuing series on motivational profiles in your salespeople, what we talk about today, it will be particularly helpful for those of your salespeople that are motivated by the people, social interaction, affiliation, motivational profile, as well as the praise and encouragement profile that you can get only inside the Sales Management Mastery Academy in the file cabinet for our paid members. So you get 5 motivational profiles and how to actually uncover those motivational profiles using what we call the motivational questionnaire. So for these 2 particular motivational profiles, this tip here today is going to be particularly helpful for you, especially for those who are motivated by the praise and encouragement end of things. But I think in general, enthusiasm in a sales manager is something that's probably not even talked about a whole lot. And it's not something that's typically taught. How do you teach enthusiasm? And we're going to give you some tips and techniques here today on how to become enthusiastic. If you're not enthusiastic, then you should be enthusiastic, but do it in your own way. You don't have to do it in my way or the way that maybe some of your colleagues do it. But if you're not generally excited about what you're doing, then maybe you should seek other work. Maybe you're just more of a low-key type of personality, and that's okay because enthusiasm does come out and come through that in a low-key way. You can be enthusiastic talking like Tony Robbins, and you can also be enthusiastic talking like Winston Churchill, who never really raised his voice a whole lot, but was a very charismatic and very enthusiastic leader. And Tony Robbins is the same kind of way. Maybe on the leadership end of things, Jack Welch from GE was very enthusiastic, over the top at times. Herb Kelleher at Southwest was very enthusiastic. So there's enthusiasm sort of on this scale. But the point is that all good sales leaders and all good leaders and great leaders for that matter have a level of enthusiasm. So we're going to talk about that a little bit here today, and particularly how you can apply this to those people-oriented and praise-oriented salespeople through their motivational profiles. So just about enthusiasm just in general, a high level of enthusiasm for the work being done is contagious to your salespeople. If you are enthusiastic about what they're doing, then that contagiousness, if that's a word, is going to rub off on them. So if you're excited about the prospects of taking over a new potential market or a new product or something, maybe it's a product that has lots of flaws in it, but there's certain aspects of it that you're very enthusiastic, or maybe you figured it out. And we've talked about this and actually written about this and how to be the best sales manager in the world. One of our more popular posts on salesmanagementmastery.com is how to be the best sales manager in the world. And how you do it is you get a product that maybe has flaws, but pick out specific things about it that are absolutely much better than the competition. You might not be enthusiastic about the product on the whole, but for that small niche, you can generate a tremendous amount of enthusiasm. And that's how you do it in a very deeply competitive market. So another thing about enthusiasm is that the sales manager really sets the example for the team to follow. And he is, or she is, what we call the enthusiasm stick, so to speak. So your salespeople can have levels of enthusiasm that are higher than yours, but your level of enthusiasm, especially when you're speaking in front of them or when you have any sort of interactions with them, even when things are not going well, is to frame it all in a positive way and continuously be enthusiastic, but not come across as being disingenuous or just making it up and having false bravado. Your salespeople are going to figure this out, and they figure it out very, very quickly. So enthusiasm is something that it has to be real. It has to come from you, and you have to firmly believe in it. Find something to be enthusiastic about. Maybe 90% of things in your situation are your competitor is better than you at, but maybe there's that one thing, of that 10% that you're so supremely better than them at. So highlight that. Become enthusiastic about that when you're leading and coaching your salespeople. And you will end up motivating this profile extremely well just based upon that. So also a high level of enthusiasm not only affects but infects your salespeople with a sense of purpose and optimism. And there's going to be tons of times, and almost seems like maybe right now for you, seems like all the time you're dealing with problems, you're dealing with issues, you're dealing with things that are negative. And you need to be the one that rises above it and sees it from the 60,000 foot view and become enthusiastic about it, frame the problems in their proper context, and move forward. Because if you sink down to the low levels where your salespeople are, and salespeople in general, having managed and motivated a few of them in my day, tend to gripe and tend to bitch and moan about certain situations, especially when they're all together. They gripe a lot. And if your product isn't the best one on the market, they're griping a whole lot more when you're not there than they are in front of you. That's for sure. So you've got to rise above it, and your enthusiasm will do that, but make sure it doesn't come across as false bravado. So that high level of enthusiasm will infect your salespeople and give them optimism even when times are tough and you're facing tremendous challenges. So how do you become enthusiastic? If you're not normally enthusiastic, how do you actually do it? Well, a lot of it's related to your body language and your voice. And there's a great saying from Tony Robbins, and that is, motion creates emotion. If you start moving in the right direction and breathing in the right way and talking in the right way, you will become enthusiastic. It's almost like your brain takes a trigger from your voice and how you behave. If you ever notice in the morning, if you miss your alarm and you're stressed out and you're rushing into the shower and you're running out of the house and you're constantly in motion, as soon as you wake up in the morning and you just snap, you get out of bed and you're just constantly in motion, it's like once you finally get to your destination, hopefully on time, and you don't miss your first meeting or whatever it happens to be, you notice that your body is all of a sudden in motion. Your brain is fully engaged. Now, it might be the stress and the hormones that are released because of stress, but motion creates that emotion. And you can use this to become enthusiastic as well as charismatic. And today we're going to talk about enthusiasm. We're going to talk about charismatic, or how to be charismatic, in other shows here. But this is how you really do use your body and your language in order to do that. So the first one is an animated or confident demeanor. And how do you become confident? Well, you become animated and confident by pretending that you are confident. This doesn't mean that you necessarily want to come across as somebody who is smug, but create confidence in your mind. Be confident in advance of whatever it is that's going to happen. So, for example, if you're in a situation where you are in a presentation where suddenly there is a question that is thrown to you and you don't really know the answer to it, you can answer it in a confident manner without really even knowing the answer and admitting that you don't know the answer, but doing it in a confident way. And you do this by using your body language and using your voice. So an animated and confident demeanor is very, very key in order to maintain a high level of enthusiasm. So animation meaning using your eyes, using your hands, using whatever it happens to be, gesticulating to create this kind of emotion that sends to your brain these signals of optimism and enthusiasm. Number two is oftentimes having sort of a fast-paced or upbeat vocal delivery. And I think, at times when I'm doing talks or even when I'm doing this show here, maybe I don't really want to do the show, or maybe I don't want to do the talk, or I'm not really feeling up to it. I don't feel 100%, but the more I talk and the faster my delivery is and it's upbeat, and I just sort of force myself into an animated kind of state, then I become more enthusiastic. So A sales manager who can do this on a consistent basis, sort of snap out of the doldrums, so to speak, is a very, very effective sales leader. So do it with a fast-paced, sort of upbeat vocal delivery. Now, number 3 is having a charismatic or energetic body movements. We talked about gesticulations with your hands, but let's say that you're doing a talk in front of a group. You throw your shoulders back, you lift your head into the air. Look at Barack Obama, for example. Barack Obama, whether you like his politics or not, he has sort of this stentorian sort of charismatic look. And if you really notice his body language, his shoulders are always thrown back. His head is held up high. His nose is in the air sometimes. Some people think that makes him look a little bit on the snobby side, but I think when he's overcompensating, he probably looks that way. But he looks confident. He has an air about him. He's confident. He's another example of somebody who's not over-the-top enthusiastic, but you can see his passion through his words. To set his politics or anything that you believe politically aside, he is a charismatic, first off, but very enthusiastic leader. And he does that with his body motions and his body movements. Also, enthusiastic leaders or sales leaders have easy acceptance to new ideas. And this is number 4 here. So always be open to new ideas. And we talked about this very, very briefly in our people profile before. This is very important for this kind of profile, is to be accepting of new ideas, because that way you're looking at, there's not only one way. And if you're enthusiastic about other people's ideas as well as your own, then that makes you an even more effective sales leader. Number 5 is effective, enthusiastic sales leaders have great vigor and energy, and they have a lot of animation in their voice, and they have a certain level of energy that sort of permeates a room. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to own the room when you walk in, but another thing that Tony Robbins always used to say is that when you feel down, pretend that you have a cape on. Throw a cape over your shoulders, and all of a sudden you feel this vigor, you feel this energy, and this comes across in enthusiasm. You don't necessarily have to go over the top with it, but be enthusiastic. Put yourself in that state and force yourself to become enthusiastic even when you're not. It's absolutely essential as a sales leader to be enthusiastic even in times when you're not, or when you don't feel like you are. And lastly, number 6 is use expressive and rich vocabulary. This isn't necessarily memorizing the dictionary or the thesaurus, but use rich vocabulary, expressive vocabulary. Don't use just good and nice and all these sort of regular words. Use dynamic words. I once used alacrity as a word with one of my sales reps, and we still joke about it to this day because I had just learned the word and I wanted to use it in a sentence so bad. And I said it, and it's always something that we sort of joke about. But I'm not saying that you should use words like alacrity, but use vocabulary that's enthusiastic and that's expressive. And your salespeople will pick up on this, and that enthusiasm will carry over into their sales calls and make them become more effective as salespeople. So just a couple of watch outs here, a couple of don't do's after our list here briefly of how to use body language to become an enthusiastic sales leader. Don't become a corporate cheerleader, and your sales reps are going to sense this false sincerity from a mile away. So just be very careful with this because, for example, corporate initiatives that don't make any sense, that have to be done, it's okay to poke fun at the company a little bit here, but make sure you explain the why from a corporate perspective. So strike a balance. So don't go over the top saying everything has to be the letter of the law from a corporate cheerleader standpoint, the company, rah, rah, rah. Give them a little bit more of a realistic viewpoint on things. Put your spin on it. That's what they're looking for. What's the corporate way? What's your spin? How do we go forward with this particular initiative? And another thing for a watch out is don't try too hard to adopt the characteristics that we talked about before in this body language. Be wary of looking insincere. If you start to pretend that you have a cape on and it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. It's all really depending on what's most effective for you. But you're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have your days when you're not so enthusiastic. So put yourself into that mindset, but make sure that you do it in your own way. And energy and enthusiasm can be low-key, like we said before, and you can strike the appropriate balance with your type of personality. And last but not least, though, enthusiasm is an absolute must for a great sales leader. And if this is what every sales manager ought to know about sales leadership. It's not just about leadership in general. And a lot of the techniques that we teach you here on this show talk about that. But enthusiasm is an absolute must. If your enthusiasm or energy level is low, you've got to adopt some of the aforementioned things that we talked about here so that you can maximize your sales group's potential. So just to review here on the show, a high level of enthusiasm for work being done is contagious to salespeople. The sales manager sets the example for the team to follow. You're the enthusiasm stick. And a high level of enthusiasm affects but infects your salespeople with a sense of purpose, and always figure out a way to be enthusiastic about something, some particular part, maybe of your corporate initiative or maybe the service or product that you're providing. And we gave you a bunch of tips on how to adopt the body language of an enthusiastic sales leader. And then lastly, we gave you a few watch outs about not being a corporate cheerleader and not trying too hard, when adopting some of these characteristics and these techniques. But also, great enthusiasm is an absolute must, and you've got to become an enthusiastic sales leader and use these techniques to increase your own enthusiasm. And you're going to find that it's going to help motivate the people and praise-oriented salesperson, but also make you a far more effective sales leader so that you can achieve your sales expectations and your sales performance goals. Now, for hundreds of other sales management techniques and strategies such as this one, you can find them in the Sales Management Mastery Academy, along with tons of done-for-you resources to help your sales managers achieve ultimate sales management success. To claim your free sales manager training inside the Sales Management Mastery Academy, including our most popular training of all time, How to Motivate Your Sales Team to Peak Performance, visit salestraininggift.com. That's it for this week's episode of Sales Management Mastery. Until next time, wishing you ultimate sales management success.
You've been listening to the sales management, motivational, and leadership training expert, Ralph Burns. Ralph invites you to discover the sales manager training secrets that will unleash a flood of new sales from your sales team. Visit salestraininggift.com and you'll get instant access to your choice of life-changing sales manager training techniques, only taught in the internationally acclaimed Sales Management Mastery Academy online community. Go now to salestraininggift.com. Sales Management Mastery.